Hello, I'm Daniel. I wanted to address something. I think that I'm hearing a lot of things that fit into this general theme. So I wanted to just make a video and talk about this one theme. And that theme is common sense. Or rather, common sense as it relates to COVID and as it relates to CDC guidance. Um, so that's what we are talking about today. Because there are things going on that seem to me to fly in the face of what I would see as common sense, and that's probably how many of you are seeing it. So, just to address one specific example, desk sharing is happening now. So, in some areas, not everywhere, you come in for your shift, you sit at your desk, you do your job, you leave, someone else sits at your desk at night, right? Or vice versa, depending on who you are. But that's happening in a lot of areas, and it wasn't for a little while. Now, we looked through CDC guidelines, and there's nothing that says they can't do desk sharing, provided they're encouraging you to clean your desk. So it makes no sense. No, it does make sense. But the struggle for me is, I think this is a big building. There's a lot of empty space. They don't have to have people sharing desks. Why are they doing this, right? So that, to me, that is where it sounds like common sense to me. It seems like, well, they could just sit you somewhere else. There's lots of space in this building. There's some areas that would have a really tough time working in other places in the building, and other areas that would have a very easy time doing that. But we know that our building has lots of empty space. So what my mind tells me is, well, they could spread people out more. Why don't they want to, right? That's what my mind tells me. But the point is, and we're going to circle back to this soon as I talk about another example that's sort of similar, but if there's plenty of space, if the night shift and day shift people could be sitting in different areas, why aren't they? Why are people desk sharing? Why is this the expectation? Why is this being forced on workers? And the reason is they can. I'm not privy to the high-level meetings where these decisions are being made. I wasn't there when whoever got together and said, well, we're going to start making people desk share again. So I can't really say why, and that's sort of part of the problem. But to me, it seems to be that it would be a simple matter to make people be far away from each other. And so, to me, that could potentially fall under the range of what we call common sense. Like, it seems like, well, why are they doing this? Why? And the truth is that sometimes when we ask questions like that, we get the answer, well, we're allowed to. And it's the same thing. It's a similar thing with now people in many areas are sitting next to each other again. In some areas, they're still not, but in many areas, people are sitting next to each other. CDC guidelines, as I think we've discussed, says you have to be 6 feet away. And the agency has defined 6 feet as from my keyboard to your keyboard, not from my shoulder to your shoulder, but from, or not my keyboard, or from the center of my body. I've heard both things. I think more often they say the center of my body. From the center of my body to the center of your body has to be 6 feet. That seems crazy. Well, okay, I'm overstating it, but that seems like it's against the spirit of what we're talking about when we talk about social distancing. Because if I reach over to get something out of my cabinet, I just got closer to my neighbor, right? If I drop something and I have to lean down to pick it up, I just got closer to my neighbor. There's huge potential for me to violate the 6 feet often, right? And so I think about that, and I think about, well, isn't it, again, why not spread people out more? Why not spread people out more? Because our building is very big, so spreading people out more could happen. Why isn't it happening? Why should someone sit next to someone else? And again, I wasn't privy to the meetings where this happened, but they're making the argument we're doing what we're required to do. And so while it seems like it should be obvious, especially areas where the work's really easy to move, why not move people? There's empty space in the building. Again, we're supposed to be at 25% capacity. So that means there should be 75% of empty space in the building that we could fill with people. Why are people sitting next to each other? Because it's allowed. Because it's allowed. And again, I think 6 feet from center mass to center mass is against the spirit of what we're talking about when we talk about distancing, but I'll set that aside for now and just say, why have them sit next to each other? That's the question. And I'm reminded of this one time in maybe my first day at the agency. I was in a training class, and one of the trainers said to the other, "Why are we doing it this way? This way doesn't make sense." And the other trainer said, "Remember where you work. Remember where you work." And that has really stuck with me. Some people really think the agency is not interested in common sense. It's not interested in solutions that should be simple and easy. So that really stuck with me as something someone said. And maybe you've heard a version of that, and maybe you haven't. But the point is, they are going to do what CDC guidelines require, and I don't know if they're going to do more than that. We would like them to do more than that. I don't know if they're going to. We're doing what's required is often an answer we get. We're doing what's required. And I have a couple of times been given the opportunity to be in those meetings, some of those meetings with upper management. And what I've said to them is, why don't you do something to try to convince these employees they're safe? Because if they feel like they're safe, that's win-win. They're going to perform better. Employees that are scared they're going to get COVID are probably not making a lot of their goals, right? Are probably not putting out the work that we would like to see them putting out because they're scared. And of course, I know some people are in this working in the building and aren't that worried about COVID, and other people are. But the point is that panicked employees probably don't perform that well. And I expressed that in those meetings that I was given the opportunity to attend. And there was really no response. At least in my experience, they didn't seem to be open to listening to that. That being said, as we all are learning, a meeting that's really a phone call is a little different than a meeting in person. And you can't really read how people are responding to what you're saying. But my point of view is, if employees were convinced they were safe, it would be better for everyone. And I don't see actions coming from upper management to make employees just feel better, right? Making you safe is one thing, and that's important. And convincing you're safe, making you feel safe, that's important too. One more thing about the desk sharing that I want to point out is there hasn't been a case, from what I can tell, and I'm tracking everything, there hasn't been a case of someone getting COVID because the person they share their desk with got COVID. That has not happened yet. That doesn't mean it won't happen, right? We can all imagine where I am at the end of my shift and I sneeze on my desk and I forget to clean it. Gross. And then my partner comes in to sit at the desk and they forget to clean it too, and they catch COVID, right? We can all imagine that happening. I can only say that doesn't appear to have happened yet, and hopefully it won't happen with vaccine availability and everything else that's coming. Hopefully that won't happen, but I can imagine how it could, right? So, well, I guess that's it. That's what I wanted to say. We are hoping we can expect them to follow CDC guidelines. We can't expect more than that. We're going to be disappointed if we expect more than that, I think. I do think that upper management should be communicating with you better, but that's not the situation we've seen so far. I don't see efforts being made to convince you that you're safe. And so my assertion is that a big effort should be made to convince you that you're safe. But it's not required under CDC guidelines. And so it's not happening, right? So that's it for today. So I just wanted to address that because people keep asking, like, hey, why are we desk sharing? Why are we sitting next to each other now? Why? And that's why. We have to pay attention to what they're required to do. And we wish they would do more. We wish they would not have people sitting next to each other. And we're asking them to stop it. And we wish they would not do desk sharing. And we're asking them to stop it, but they don't have to. And we wish they would, and we're encouraging them to do it. But ultimately, I kind of wish CDC guidelines were more strict than they are. Because that's sort of the wall we're running up against. So that's it for today. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me. Have a good day.